Hello everybody, it's me, MilX again. I'm once again here to talk about why fighting supports are overpowered. Now, the last time I talked about this, while I do think I made some fairly good points, I don't think they were delivered particularly well. So that's why I'm making this video, which is probably going to be better. So, fighting, much like other class-based shooter games, has a support category. Though I'm not talking about all of the supports. I'm specifically focusing on the healers, which are Vine Staff, Medkit, and I would personally count Boombox as a healer, but some people would disagree. But he heals shield HP, which is effectively the same thing as HP in this discussion. So, what's the problem? Well, first of all, most supports in most class-based team shooter games have the sacrifice of personal power for helping the team be stronger overall. This is not quite the case in fighting. While yes, in some aspects the supports are weaker than the rest of the cast, there are instances such as Mr. Subspace. I do not remember how to draw this man. Like Subspace. I'd say he is fairly powerful, but he's not part of this discussion. And in fact he's perfectly fine in my book. You know, he's a great, well-designed support in my opinion. What I'm focusing on, like I said, is the healers, these three. Like I said, the healers, they generally are honestly able to step up against the rest of the main cast. While yes, in terms of firepower, general damage output, the rest of the cast is better. But let's take a look at Medkit's moveset. So let's pretend this is Medkit, alright? Yeah, so this is Medkit. He was a little gun. And then this is enemy Roger. So let's say Roger here, he wants to kill Medkit, right? So let's say it's a sword or something. So obviously Medkit has a few moves. He obviously has his M1 ability, his M2 ability, his E ability, Q ability, and his ult. So his M1 ability is not particularly strong at face value. It only deals 5 damage, 10 damage on headshot, and it has 6 bullets in the clip. So, you know, sword does 15 damage. It's obviously better. But if he lands that headshot, he heals like 10 HP from his passive proc. Now, there's a possibility that there's like another teammate here that's like injured, and the proc goes to him instead. But you know that's not very likely. And most of the time, when you get the proc, it heals you. So bam, the medkit gets 10 HP back, which is 2/3 of one sword swing. Now, of course, this proc does have a cooldown, but still, that's just the M1. The M2 obviously unloads all the bullets in his clip very quickly, and I think that can deal 30 damage in total if you land all of the attacks. Pretty strong, and it comes out pretty fast. And against a sword, it's probably not going to be that difficult to land those hits. And of course, the E ability is another big issue. You see, Medkit's E ability, it drops a ring that heals. Now, this is fine on paper until you realize it also damages enemies, and it can also heal the Medkit. Yeah. So I think it heals the Medkit about 15 HP, and I'm pretty sure it damaged the enemy 15 HP, or maybe less. I could be wrong, but you know, the damage is not the biggest issue. The biggest issue is that it also launches the enemy upwards. This will disorientate them if they're currently trying to do an attack. So let's say Roger here is trying to do a sword charge towards the medkit. If he tosses this, it's gonna launch him up into the air and he's likely gonna miss it. Or if he's just trying to take a swing at the medkit or use an M2 ability, this ability can likely throw off the aim because it thrusts the fighter upwards. So already that's a pretty powerful ability, not to mention the fact it heals the medkit as well. And of course the Q ability, if things ever get bad for the medkit, let's say that he's actually losing the fight, which, you know, could be pretty likely, he can simply just go to, like, just teleport immediately to a random teammate. Or say if a random teammate jumps in to help the medkit, he can teleport just right onto that teammate and cause an explosion, which deals, if I recall, around, I don't know actually how much it deals, but I think it's like 20, I don't remember. The point is, it deals damage. So yeah, medkit not as defenseless as you think. And of course his ult, not only is his ult really fast to just come out and then just the crystal just comes out and then drops down and then boom, immediately everyone's invulnerable for a short amount of time and they all heal a bunch. So so obviously you could try to interrupt it, but usually if a medkit is smart, they'll know when they're low HP they're gonna die anyway, so they're not gonna bother popping their ult. It's a very powerful and valuable ult, so they don't want to just waste it. But you generally, if they're around half HP, they can very safely pop the ult and you will not be able to interrupt it unless more teammates come in and focus their fire on the medkit. But even then, well, it still might not work out. But that's medkit. Let's move on to Boombox. Boombox can also defend himself pretty well, usually against ranged threats. Of course, so let's just really quickly draw Mr. Boombox here. There. I don't know why. I have to hold this paper down in my hand, so drawing is a bit more difficult. Anyways, so Boombox, of course, we have his shield ability. You know, blocks all projectiles except for hyper lasers M2 and maybe slingshots M2. I'm not entirely sure, but those are abilities that are on a rather long recharge, so it doesn't really matter. So yeah, basically just blocks all the attacks. And of course he has the ability, his Q ability, which allows him to float up into the air, which can very easily dodge a sword, maybe like a sword's melee attack. A katana doesn't really get affected. Katana doesn't really get affected that much, honestly. But like a biograph, a sword, a skateboard, whatever. He's temporarily just protected from them for the most part, and he just slams down and does a good old AoE damage. Does damage to him, like 20 or 50, I don't remember. But you know, these two, they're small potatoes. Honestly, they're fine. They're fine. That they do not really matter that much in the grand scheme of things. The shield may be a little bit too much of a middle finger to range classes, but it's okay. It's whatever. Now, the real issue I have is the M2 ability. The M2 ability of Boombox is my issue. So what's the M2 ability of Boombox? It basically acts as a stronger version of the M1 ability that gets stronger based on how many charges you have and stuff like that. But it also gives you shield HP. It gives you shield HP in accordance to how much it's, you know, you're charged up to. I think when you have 4 out of 4 charges, I think it's like 35 shield HP, which is obviously quite a lot. So yeah, and you might think, oh, it's shield HP, you know, it's classes that have less shield HP are going to benefit less from this. No, because this shield HP given is special. This shield HP is able to go over the class's existing shield HP limit. It's less of actual shield HP and more of just temporary added health. I like, it's not actually, in terms of functionality, it's not shield HP. It doesn't regenerate back or anything. It just adds 35 HP to the fighter, that any fighter that's in range. So yeah, not great, obviously. So yes, that is the main problem of Boombox right here. Is this 35 shield out of nowhere. This gives him, including to himself, which is the main point here, it gives him all these three abilities combined give him incredibly powerful self-sustain abilities. I'd say arguably even more than Medkit. So yeah, like I said, the supports, honestly, they can fend for themselves pretty well, not because they have more firepower, but simply because they have more sustainability than the other fighters. Now, let's talk about Vine Staff. Vine Staff is honestly the least egregious example of the three. Now, I don't have an issue with most of her abilities. In fact, the only ability I have an issue with is her E ability. You see, the Q ability has no impact on deathmatch, like 1v1s, whatever. It has no impact. E ability, this thing is pretty dang powerful. Not as powerful as it was on release, but it's still quite powerful. You see, what it does is Mrs. Vinestaff here, she's able to shoot several AoE seeds that if you're hit by it, you get stunned. Now, I'm not sure if it's exactly a stun, but your movement does stagger for a short while. And I'm pretty sure it can even interrupt skateboard. At least that's how it was on release, and I don't think they would change that. While the stun is short, it could interrupt your attacks and movement abilities. And it really, throws you off. And obviously, she has very rapid damage with her lots of seed pellets and stuff. And on top of that, her sprouts obviously give her regeneration, which obviously is more self-sustained. Now, she is not as bad as Boombox or Medkit's self-sustainability, and like I said, the only issue is her E ability with the whole stunning, and also obviously the damage as well, the AoE, and of course it also gives her like an additional sprout to plant to give her more regeneration. In my opinion, it just does too much, but yeah, E ability is really the only issue. I mean, there is her ultimate, but that's kind of like a more staggered Medkit ult, so it doesn't really matter as much. Because yes, she could save herself from it, but there is generally a couple more seconds of delay between when she casts it and it finishes casting and the flower actually blooms and gives the people regeneration. So you have a lot more time to kill her before she gets that regeneration up. Though if you don't, then tough luck. Oh yeah, of course. But I forgot to talk about Boombox. Oh, it's raining tacos. Woo! 300 shield to everyone. Everyone gets like 300 shield, or like 250. I don't remember exactly how much. Obviously, it's very hard to hit him while he's jumping up. And he also gives a little bit of startup shield at the start of the ability, just in case it just wasn't bad enough. So yeah, just big boom, AoE, 30 damage to everyone. All his teammates are super fast, and they all become basically invincible for a short amount of time. It's basically just like kind of just like a Medkit ult, except you can attack enemy players of it, and it's, I guess, not as strong in some departments. I don't know, but Boombox and Medkit's ult, they're both capable of just cucking the other enemy's ult. And the thing is, while Medkit's ult can be prevented by a Shuriken's ultimate with his anti-heal, Boombox uses shield HP, so it can't. Anti-heal only applies to regular HP healing. It does not apply to shield HP healing. I'm not entirely sure if it applies to regeneration. It might not. I haven't fully tested that yet. But Vine Staff is, like I said, is the least bad out of the three. So in my opinion, doesn't really matter. So what is the result of this? Well, the result of this is when you stack supports together, I'm just gonna go back to this. When you stack supports together, they become really strong. Because the boombox can heal the medkit can heal the boombox, the vine staff can heal the both of them, and it's just a whole big circle jerk of healing. And everyone becomes way harder to kill than they should be. I've heard people say support stacking was nerfed. I personally don't feel it. Now, of course, in some occasions, maybe support stacking maybe doesn't go your way. Maybe, who knows, maybe the enemy team is really, really good at outputting damage and focusing fire on the one person. How do you prevent that, maybe? Well, just get Katana. Just get Katana. I don't know how to draw Katana. I don't care. I hate this stupid fat idiot. And I also hate this other stupid bulky fat idiot. Banhammer and Katana, the two fat tanks of the fighting roster. What's the problem with them? Well, I think you can already tell. They're tanks. They synergize amazingly with the supports. Now, Katana especially because of his passive ability to where his attacks slow down the enemy. Because if that wasn't the case, you could possibly just go past the Katana and attack the supports that could be behind him, to the side of him, whatever. You could just get past the Katana and get to the supports, and you could focus down the support, and they might die, and it leaves the Katana vulnerable, and he can die. But, like I said, the Katana can just block you with his slowness ability. It makes you super slow, makes you an easy target. You can't really rush down to take out whatever support is preventing him from dying. Banhammer is less of an offense, though he has a particularly nasty combo with Boombox specifically, because Boombox gives a speed buff when he times his primary correctly. And Banhammer's main weakness is his slowness. So the fact that Boombox can just get rid of that weakness is very powerful, obviously, because outside of his slowness, Banhammer's a complete powerhouse, and he can basically destroy most fighters in the game in head-to-head combat if they don't bother to play smart and retreat or anything. But because like I said, speed is one of Banhammer's main weaknesses, but Boombox with his speed boost gets rid of that, and it can basically have almost permanent uptime with that 20% speed boost if he just times his M1s correctly, which isn't particularly difficult. So, of course, all of these are major balance issues. But let's talk into something more subjective. Let's talk about fun. These supports are not fun. Why are they not fun? Well, it's simple. I talked about it in my last video. It's because of burst healing. Burst healing is just not fun to play against. Because, well, let's go back to this scenario. Maybe let's say Roger wasn't fighting a medkit. Instead, he's fighting, I don't know, like another sword maybe, or a slingshot, or I don't know, something that sword counters. I don't know what sword counters. I suck at sword, honestly. But like I said, he's like about to murder somebody, and suddenly the medkit opts in, heals him, or maybe he uses his M2, gives him a bunch of health with his bullets, or maybe he pops his ultimate, drops down, boom. All your work invalidated just like that. Let's say you get a really good subspace ult. You trap like a lot of the enemy team in your little black hole. But a medkit nearby, he didn't get caught. So he pops his ult, and everyone is shielded completely from the black hole's damage. And it doesn't matter. Or maybe let's say the boombox pops his ult. Same situation. Everyone gets like 300 shield HP. They don't die from the thing. They come out basically unscathed. Yeah, it's not fun. Vine Staff's ult, like I said, Vine Staff in general is just the least bad out of the three. She's pretty tame compared to Medkit and Boombox. But, you know, I won't deny that her ult can sometimes be unfun. But I guess the thing is about her ult is that it's not a burst healing. It's gradual. So it is a lot better designed than the other ults. It's, you know, you have time to stop it before it reaches its full effect. Which is why Vine Staff's ult is better than Boombox's and Medkits. So, what does all of these unfun balancing issues and such ultimately cause? It causes a meta of Medkit, Boombox, Katana, and like maybe Vine Staff, who knows? Maybe Vine Staff, maybe Banhammer, definitely Banhammer, both Katana and Banhammer. So it's like 4 slots. And the 5th slot, it can be Vine Staff, it can be, I don't know, maybe DPS class like Rocket, or maybe it could be another DPS class like Hyper Laser if the Hyper Laser is really good. These guys don't really have that much of an issue. This one has less of an issue. These 4 are the main problem. This creates a very stally meta of just, it's just boring. It's just people that just don't die. They're basically immortal. Whatever you throw at them, projectiles, freaking Boombox shield, everything else is Medkit heals them up. Of course, Banhammer is absolute freaking powerhouse. He charges into your lines at the 20% speed boost. You can't get away from it because of the 20% speed boost. You die, and that's the meta of fighting right there. Now, I'll admit, I'm not a super duper professional player of this game, but from my observations from the games I've played, this is the biggest issue overall. Though, if there are any fighting pros out there who can give me any tips and tricks to any specific classes to counter this team comp, that would be very appreciated. Though though I honestly don't like the fact that I'm forced to play a specific class just to counter these supports, but sometimes it's just what has to be done. It's not particularly great, it's not particularly fun, but you know. I do know Shuriken is a great counter to Medkit, and Biograph is fairly alright at countering all 3 of the healers. But that is assuming, well, that Biograph is assuming there's no Katana or anything, because Katana can crush Biograph pretty hard if they, you know, grapple him or just get a few hits off on him. Biograph really suffers from movement debuffs and such. So, yeah, if there's any fighters you would suggest, pro fighting community, I would like to hear them, because honestly, I genuinely wish there was a counter to this team comp. Maybe there's a solution, maybe there isn't. I have no clue. I'm honestly just a mostly casual player, but as a casual player, I will say this is not fun. This is very, very not fun.